Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having us over here today. So basically, the game plan for this talk is to give you guys an overview of what the JPA program is, and then open the floor for question and answers. And I assume you all have been listening to many talks today about youth unemployment. So now we're going to give you guys a talk about employment at the bank. So that's where the JPA program comes in. It's a program which has been designed for youth, like especially people with an undergraduate degree or a master's degree, to get like a first-hand experience and exposed to work in development. So basically, what is the JPA program? So the JPA program is it's an entry-level experience. It's a 2-year contract with usual World Bank benefits. And the criteria for this program is you have to be under the age of 28, have a bachelor's degree. Most JPAs nowadays have masters, but it's not compulsory. And some of them are already working on their PhD. But so it's basically you get people with a very diverse educational background. And it's basically, as I said earlier, it's an assignment, it's an opportunity to, get exposed to, projects, like World Bank projects, to work on various issues on development. What the JPA program is not, it's not an entry point for a career in the World Bank, because this is a 2-year program where after 2 years, you have to leave the bank for 2 years. So it's mainly a stepping stone for a career in development. So I'll come back to this whole issue like after the 2 years, what JPAs do. But before that, let's see where JPAs come from. Like, this is a very, as I said, diverse program. We have about 170 JPAs, and JPAs, all these JPAs come from over 50 countries. And with regards to educational background, you have JPAs who have, economics focus, finance focus. Then you have, like, from the social sciences, like you have people who are anthropology majors, or like psychology majors who are JPAs, or people who are focused on education, on environment, or then some JPAs who have like worked in the private sector who come and join the bank. So the idea is that, there is no one particular characteristic that we look for in a JPA. You can have a different kind of educational background, because the bank is such a diverse place that we like to attract different types of people with different backgrounds. And the whole idea is that we want people with growth mindsets. We don't want someone with the whole fixed mindset, like, okay, I'm an economist, so I'm going to do A, B, and C. No, we want you to have a growth mindset while you're in the bank, because we want you to be pushed out of your safety zone, get exposed to many things as possible as you get prepared for the next step in your career. So let's talk about today's JPAs, like the JPAs who work in the bank currently, like what type of work they do. So my job, I work with the Europe and Central Asia team, and my focus area is portfolio monitoring. And basically what my team does is very strategy-focused work on how the Europe and Central Asia region handles the financial crisis, how we prepare client countries, and likewise other JPAs work on very operations and strategy-focused work. And then you get another group of JPAs who work on project-focused work. Like, for example, maybe for the 2 years at the bank, you work on a roads project in Kazakhstan, or designing, on planning airports in Brazil, or you're doing an education project in Bangladesh. I mean, so basically, if you're doing something very project-focused, you get the opportunity to design a project, to see it implemented, working with governments. So that's a different role that JPAs would get to play during their assignment at the bank. And then you get another group of JPAs who would focus on World Bank publications. I assume most of you have heard about the World Bank Development Report or other World Bank publications. And these publications, we work on different areas, and this is a great opportunity for for someone with a undergraduate degree or a master's degree, for a young person to get their name on a World Bank publication. And this is another great opportunity that this program offers. Moving on, post-JPA. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a 2-year contract. So after 2 years, you have to leave the World Bank. So it's not that we kick you out. We're preparing you for that next step. So where do these JPAs go? Quite a few of them go back to grad school, go back to get a master's, maybe a PhD. Last year, we had different business schools coming and visiting the bank to attract JPAs to apply to their programs. We had people from different master's programs coming and talking to the JPA group, because this is also a target group that all these schools like to focus on. So, we tend to have a lot of JPAs who go back to school. At the same time, you have JPAs who would, using the experience and the knowledge that they've learned at the bank, then they would basically go and work for another international organization like the United Nations or the Gates Foundation, or even go across the street and work for the IMF. And then you also get a few JPAs who go into the private sector. With regards to the private sector, it's mainly in consulting. But the focus is but it'll be consulting with regards to development and international affairs issues related to that. And then there are about 10% of the JPAs who do the 360 and eventually come back to the bank, because the bank also likes pipeline building. Pipeline building in the sense that they take these young minds in the beginning and they kind of train them and give them these new skills, and then they send them out where they can get more experience, get more skills, and then eventually they come back to the bank with all this new knowledge. So the bank also tries to eventually to encourage JPAs to come back and work for the World Bank Group. So I guess the next question is, how do you apply to this program? So basically, if you go to the World Bank website, and if you just Google search Junior Professional Associate Program, you'll be able to find the application process, the application and how you can apply for this program. But and the nice thing about this program, the way it's set up, there is no JPA hiring season. If you think about investment banking or in consulting, there's always a hiring, it'll be either in October or in January. But since this is a 2-year program, there's always, every 6 months, the bank is always losing about 30 to 40 JPAs, which means they're always looking to hire 30 to 40 JPAs to replace the JPAs they're losing. So there's always constant hiring, and the bank is always looking for JPAs. So if you're interested in the program, it is definitely, you should go ahead, send in your application. And also, we have a Facebook group called JPA Community, which talks about events that we are organizing and things, and you get to learn about the work JPAs are doing, and and find out ways how you can get into the program. So basically, I know that was very, very quick, but we just want to give you guys just a quick overview about the program. But ideally, if you have any questions, so we would like to open the floor for questions now. So thank you. Thanks. Yes.
How did you get it? Did you get it through that database system? Just a quick question.
Sure.
I'm wondering how you got in, maybe you and your colleague, just because the database system is famous for not being very efficient.
Okay. Yeah.
I
I like giving him the tough questions. So.
Normally, that question has is asked so many different times, and yes, you do apply through the database. But I think this is one organization where you're actually asked to make sure that you've entered your particulars into the database after you're selected for the job. So the way it works is, yes, you do create a profile. You identify the department you want to work for. In my case, I work for corporate finance and risk management. So yes, I did build a profile, but I was in touch with the Treasury and the Corporate Finance Department to see what their requirements were, and when the JPAs were being hired, when they would leave. So a good way to go about things is if you have some sort of, if you're a good networking person, if you can come across JPAs, we have a lot of different activities that we do on and off. So please try and see if you can come to those activities, get to know people, see when their contracts are running out, and it is what it is. So that's one way. But I would encourage you to build a profile and definitely keep following up with people and see if HR would be kind enough maybe to give you an informational session. That's my experience.
Sorry, thanks. And to add on to what Jassem said, basically before I became a JPA, I was on a different contract at the bank, and then basically I had the it helped having a foot in. But as Jassem said, being involved in the JPA community through different activities is one good way that you can know about the different openings. But at the same time, yes, the database system is that's one way you can throw your name in there. But at the same time, it's you have to do a little marketing on the side for yourself. So but it's at least you're getting your name out there. That's the first step, and then you'll have to take another 99 steps to eventually get there. Yes.
I have a question. Since you said that after the GPA program, that professionals has to leave from the World Bank, and I want to know during the program's 2 years, what kind of assignment we will get? Will that be something that you can build alongside your career path, so that when you exit the program, you will find you are still very equipped to go into the particular industry you are professionalized in?
Right. Thanks. The nice thing about the program is there isn't one set design. So the idea they try to promote is not designing positions for JPAs that you wish you had. You design a position for the JPA that you have. So when a manager hires a JPA, they basically they talk to you hey, so what's your, this position is only a 2-year position. What do you want to get out of it? What's your next step? Where do you want to go? And then accordingly, then, you'll have to do your regular assignments. But in addition to that, they will make sure, you have the opportunity to take other trainings, develop new skills. So when you leave the bank in 2 years, so you're ready to go on to that next step. Because the bank does take this pretty seriously, because there's also a reputational risk involved for the World Bank. Say, we get a JPA for 2 years, and then, they just have a horrible experience. We don't do any skill building. And then they go to the next step in their career. And that company, whoever hires them, they're like, wait, you were at the World Bank for 2 years, and what did you learn? So so the bank takes reputational risk very seriously. So it's up to the JPA and the manager to design, a good solid program where it helps the manager and helps the JPA, and then where they can maximize this 2-year opportunity.
Can you, if it does offense you, could you give me your example of maybe? You can talk about how you have built up your career path, and what sort of assignment you think are helping towards what you want to develop into.
Sure. Basically, in my case, I've been a JPA for 6 months, and after my program, I would like to go back to grad school. And initially I had my discussion with my manager, and I told her, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go. And then now basically, in addition to my regular daily assignments, she makes sure that, hey, if you want to go back to school, you should maybe attend these trainings. this will help you, or you should try to get involved in like communities like the JPA community events. So like that, so your manager kind of becomes your mentor. And we also we try to have mentors for JPAs where I to kind of coach them through the whole process. And the thing is, another benefit I see of the bank is I feel like I'm going back to school, because you always have these different speakers, people coming and talking to you about different things that they're doing. So you're constantly learning. So it's kind of up to you to I'm not saying that the bank takes responsibility of I'm going to make sure you get into a good school or you get a good job, but they create the opportunities where you can go to a good school or you can get that good job. Hopefully I answered your question, but you're welcome. Hey.
So you were talking about getting involved in the JPA community. I wanted to know how exactly can one do that if they're interested in such a position? And secondly, you were talking about how for undergraduates it's more difficult. How much more difficult is it for undergraduates to apply for the position? Thank you.
They're really mixed experiences to the application process, but for the first part of your question, just going back to how people what we would recommend for you to do in order to get into the program is, number one, of course, familiarize yourself with the program. I mean, is this something that you can do? And actually what Rukshan said earlier ties in perfectly, because yes, it is you and what you intend to make out of the 2-year term that you have. I mean, speaking from personal experience so far, I mean, I've been with the bank for about 6 months and it's been incredible. The team I work with is very dynamic. There's a lot of exposure to things I wouldn't have been able to do on the outside. I'm definitely trying to use that as a skill building opportunity. So it's really up to you and your department as to how they plan to train you in those 2 years. To get involved with the community overall, I would say it's not too difficult. We're about a 160 member body, 165 member body, and we have numerous events. We actually had lunch. We have internal lunches that we arrange for present JPAs over here. Externally, we do hold events outside of the bank where you have the opportunity to come in and interact with JPAs and see how they're doing. Our LinkedIn group is growing. Most of us are on there. The JPA organizing committee, the 11-member committee that heads this, that represents this overall body is on there. Please reach out with any questions that you may have. That's another way to do it. And email. I mean, just send us messages. We'll be more than happy to reply. So, yeah. And I'm sorry, you mentioned something about undergraduate and graduate. I'm sorry. It's really diverse. I mean, in the past, historically, we've seen that more undergraduates used to apply to the program and get in. I guess with the whole job market situation, you're now looking at people applying with master's degrees. Our current stats show about 60 to 65% have master's degrees when they apply to the program. So it really shifts. But you can't say, you're not fit for the job. I mean, it really depends on the position, and sometimes an undergrad may be preferred to someone who has a master's degree. I mean, at least that's what I've seen. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
no, I mean, I think you covered most of the ground there. But I mean, also, as we mentioned earlier, the JPA community, we have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn. So that's one way of knowing what the things that are going on. But with regards to being, it's not a disadvantage. Only you don't have I only have a bachelor's. So how do I compete with these people who have masters? But then you kind of have to market yourself in a different way. I mean, I only have a bachelor's, but then you have to sell other skills that you have, and because because different teams, different units are looking for different skills. And so if your skill set matches what they're looking for, then you become that ideal candidate.
Thank you. I have a question. I'm sorry if you already mentioned it in your speech or on your web page. I was wondering, what's the difference between the work you do as a JPA and the work you do as a consultant at World Bank? Thank you. Sure.
So basically, it's, I think the main difference is just the JPA and a consultant is the different contract. So, so a consultant is, you have basically 150 working days that you could work for the bank for the year. But the JPA contract is you're like a World Bank staff member. So, it's a 2-year contract, and the JPAs are like viewed as the youngest generation of World Bank staff, where, the average age of a World Bank staff member, I'm not sure if I should be saying this, but it's, I think, 46, and the average age for a JPA is 25. So, but the idea is that, it's just basically 2 different contracts where, JPAs get access to all these benefits, like what a normal World Bank staff would be able to access, where a consultant would be limited to that 150 days. Yep.
Thank you for sharing with us all this useful information. I just have a quick question. So, how do we find those JPA openings other than just waiting for your friend's contract to get expired? Is there any official outlet like website?
Usually, so our website we have it's jpacommunity.ning.com, and on this website whatever like openings that we hear about, or basically how it happens is like somebody, a manager, would like email us and say, hey, I'm looking for a JPA with for this to work with the Mexico country office, and then we kind of like take that announcement and then post it on our website. So that's basically how we would like announce these positions. But as we said earlier, the one good way is like by being more involved with the communities, like kind of the best way to know about these openings. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to visit the website more, and you'll hear more about the openings and stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. So.
Hi. We actually have one more from one of our country offices. It's Lucia Justo, IFC, Mexico. She's currently an STT. And her question for you was, how long does it take to process a JPA application since the moment you've applied?
Oh, well, I think that basically it depends on the team and the unit you'll be working for. And if the team needs the JPA to come on board, within 2 weeks or in a month, then I guess, that's up to the whole visa office and HR on how fast they process it. And usually, on average, it's about, it's about 4 weeks while all the, the paperwork and everything else is done. But then it's also basically, it's up to the team. So it could vary from 2 weeks to 2 months. Hopefully I covered that. Hi, Lucia. Thank you so much for the questions, but I think you guys have a lot more interesting stuff on the agenda. So thanks again, and enjoy your day. Thank you.